Hello students, today we will be talking about cascading style sheets CSS in HTML, how they are incorporated in HTML. I am Aditi from Mac Raipur. So starting with it, CSS was introduced to keep the presentation information separate from the HTML content. That is, whatever the information was present in the HTML regarding the how it will be displayed will be kept is supposed to be kept in CSS, and it is separate from the actual HTML page content. It defines the rules for the presentation of an HTML, and in short we can say a web page is made up of HTML content plus CSS. Now this cascade part, we say it is CSS, Cascading Style Sheets. Now what do we mean by cascade? The cascade part of CSS is a set of rules which is used to solve the conflicts when we use multiple CSS rules on the same elements. For example, if there are two rules defining the color element of H1, then the rule that comes last in the cascade row will trump the order. That is, the last rule will be the actual rule followed in that HTML page. Why do we need CSS? What are the benefits of CSS? So let's go through it one by one. The first benefit is that it separates the structure from presentation. That is a very big benefit because it separates the HTML content from all the styles which we want to be presented in our HTML pages. And thus, it provides advanced control of our presentation. Now, since CA presentation is separate from the structure, so it is easy to maintain even multiple pages. It supports faster page loading and it is very easy to learn, and it even supports the use of multiple browsers, which was previously a difficult task. Now talking about the CSS rule, it is made up of two parts. The first part is the selector and the second part is the declaration. In this declaration, we have the property which is being assigned a particular value. This selector can be it is mostly an element of an HTML, and it can be ID and a class too. For example, if we consider the H1 header, and if I want to change the background color of H1 header to pink and the color of the H1 heading as green, that means the color of the font. So I can do it by writing it as CSS for it, H1 curly brace background colon pink. Now here background refers to the property and pink refers to the value. In the similar way, color refers to the property and green refers to the value. In this way, I can specify CSS for H1 heading. Now if I want the same CSS to be applied to multiple HTML elements, so I can separate them using commas and use the same code for it, like H1, H2, H3, and the same code background colon pink, color colon green. In this way, the same structure can be used for different HTML elements. So we do not need to write again and again the same code. So it's easier to maintain too. Now, what about the comments? How do we write comments in CSS? By using asterisk and asterisk slash. In between the lines, we can write the comments. Now, as I mentioned that the selector can be an HTML element, ID, or a class. Now, what are ID and a class? Both ID and a class is an HTML attribute that is added to the HTML markup. For ID, we refer it by hash sign, and for class, we refer it by dot operator. So, how can we use them? It is visible in the example as shown on the screen. The CSS for ID will be hash logo. Logo is the name of the ID which is being referred in the HTML content, like image img ID is equal to logo. That means the name of the ID is logo. Source, I have given an image, and that particular logo, the CSS related to that particular logo is written in the CSS part, hash logo, and it is being mentioned over there, whatever attributes you want to add into that particular image. Similarly, how about the class? In the class, like in the P tag, the paragraph tag, we are using the class, we are specifying the class red, and we are declaring it in CSS as .red, and we are changing the color to red. Again, we are using the same property is color and value is red. So by using .red, that particular class is being invoked. This is the way which we can use the selectors like normal HTML element, as we saw with H1, H2 and H3 in the previous slide, and here in using ID and class. This is a simple HTML example which is without any CSS, which specifies the font color as green and the size of the text hello world as 5. This is a simple example of an HTML. Now, if you want to replace it by using a CSS, how the code will be? The code will appear like this, in which we are using a paragraph tag and we are using the style attribute with it, in which we are specifying that color :green, again the same logic, that is property :value. So color is the property and green is the value, and font size is again the property, and 24 pixel, that is again the value which we are assigning in this particular CSS example. So this is the way how which a simple HTML code can be converted into an simplest CSS without any much difficulty. So it proves our benefit that it is very easy to learn. Moving ahead, how we can add the CSS in our HTML documents. There are 3 ways by which it can be done. First way is inline style sheet. Second is internal style sheet, and third is an external style sheet. So moving ahead one at a time. What is inline style sheet? It defines the style sheet rules directly along with the HTML elements using style attribute. It is the simplest way in which the CSS can be written, in which we use style attribute. The second one, that is the internal style sheet, we use style tag in the header section of the HTML document. And in the third, that is the external style sheet, we make a separate CSS file and we include that file in our HTML content. So these are the 3 different ways in which CSS can be incorporated with HTML. So the first one is the inline, in which style sheet rules are given using the style attribute, and here goes the example of it. This is a simple example in which we are using the style attribute and we are defining it in line, in one single line, like color. The first paragraph tag, if we see, it says style equal to color :red. This is red, the text that is being written, and it will be written in red color. Again the same thing, property :value. Property is color and value is red. Moving ahead, we see here the second paragraph in which we are changing now the property, that is we are changing it to font size and we are giving it as 20 pixels. So this is thick, means it will be in thick font. In the third paragraph, we are again changing it to color green, and in the fourth, we are using both of them, green color and thick. So this is the simplest inline style sheet in which we can see the difference in the font styles, like changing in the color and the size and the thickness of it. Moving ahead, the second part was of the internal style sheets. Now, internal style sheets, moving back, I'll again repeat it. It says that defines the style sheet rules in the header section of the HTML document using style tag. So here we are going to use a style tag and it will be mentioned in the header section. So moving ahead to the internal style sheet example, let's go through it. Now we start with a header, we write title, and then we start with our style tag. Style tag, and this is the attribute that says, it specifies that it is text oblique CSS. Now again, here we are using CSS class, like we have already specified. It can be, selectors can be specified by either the HTML element or ID or through class. Here we are using the class because we are using a dot operator there. So dot red, color colon red, dot thick, and we are changing the font size to a thicker pixel value, and green we are changing it to colors to green. The thing that is to be noticed is that when we use it in the class, at the end we use semicolon, and then these are the three different classes we are declaring in our CSS, and then we are closing using the style tag, and the head is being closed. And how do we use it in our body, the body of the HTML? We will just call that particular class instead of writing the whole thing like color equal, color red, font size 20 in the P tag. We will just call the red class or green class or thick class as it is mentioned in the HTML code, and so it changes. So class is equal to red, this is red, this will appear in red. Thick, it will be in the size of the font will be 20. Green, the size of the, not the size but the color will be green. And thick and green, that means we are changing both, we are using both. So font size and the color will be reflected in it. So this is the way how which we can use style tag in our HTML code and use it. Now the last was the external style sheets. In external style sheets, as I mentioned, that we have to create a separate file, a separate CSS file, and we will name it as, in this example we have used style.css, in which we have mentioned these three classes. I'm using the same example from the internal style sheet so it is easily to understand. I'm using the same three classes, red, thick and green, and now we will refer it in the HTML code. Now how this linking is being done, we have to look at it. We will use the link tag for it in the head of the HTML tag. In the head section we use link, rel, that is the relation between which it tells about the style sheet. Type, it tells that it is text and oblique CSS, and where it is found, where it will be found is by giving by the href, that is hypertext reference style.css, because it is in the same place of the HTML code. Otherwise we need to write the whole path where this CSS will be available. And in the same way, there is no difference in the code. The same way we are using the class equal to red, class equal to thick, class equal to green, and class equal to thick green, and it will fetch the content from the CSS file, that is style.css, and it will display the content to us. as it is being according to the class which is being called. In this way, we saw that CSS is very easy to learn and incorporated in HTML content. Thank you so much.